I want to thank Governor Walz for his very strong and very clear leadership. I think in some ways he's made for this moment. The teacher in him, the coach in him, the man who has military experience has come to this operation of preparing Minnesota for COVID-19 with military precision in the actions that the executive branch has taken to prepare, but also with the warmth of a coach and the confidence that no matter how hard things are, we're going to make it. And we need to pull together as a team. And as a teacher, I don't think it's many governors in the country who are doing press conferences with PowerPoint presentations talking about the things that we need to work on. And I think right now, with Minnesotans having so many questions and so many unknowns, he is the man for the moment. And I'm just very grateful that he's our governor. I will tell you, and that's just on a personal basis, from the perspective of the Speaker of the House, we have been working really well as the legislative branch with the executive branch. We appreciate that the governor needs to move with great speed in these executive orders, but we have had a lot of conversations about legislation to ratify the executive orders and to do things in legislation that he is not able to do in executive order. I would say for the most part, we've had really strong working relationships with Republicans. We've been able to get a lot done. Under this time of duress, people are kind of, for the most part, showing themselves to be at their best. And we are ready to continue operating the Minnesota House of Representatives in a very different way than we ever have before. We are getting set up for our first session that will include remote voting. We have 6 remote committee hearings scheduled for this week, and I would anticipate more coming. And the majority leader already had 1 remote hearing last week. So we are here, we're ready to work, we're ready to help Minnesotans, and we're ready to help the governor.
We are fortunate in Minnesota that we have initial signs that some of our actions led by Governor Walz are starting to show some signs of success. The amount of cooperation that Minnesotans are exhibiting through their social distancing, the level of engagement from people from all parts of the political spectrum, cities and counties, community organizations, schools, teachers, everyone in Minnesota is really coming together to do this in the best way possible. And we're seeing some good signs of early success. But we also have to be aware of the deep economic distress and danger that is facing so many people. With more than 300,000 Minnesotans unemployed, and that number being completely off the charts compared to what we've ever had before in this period of time, we know that a time of deep economic anxiety is coming for so many Minnesotans, and we are just at the very front end of this. So we are in a position today where we are seeing a wave of COVID cases rise in front of us. We don't know how high that water will reach, and we don't know the economic and health consequences that will leave people devastated afterwards. But we are absolutely committed in the Minnesota House of Representatives, at the state legislature, regardless of party, and certainly in close connection with Governor Walz, to make sure that Minnesota responds to this in the best way we possibly can, that we come out of this with a renewed sense of purpose and commitment to each other, and a much stronger economic foundation to support all Minnesotans. So we believe we can accomplish these things. We know that the crisis has not arrived, but it is building, and we are committed to doing everything that we possibly can to make Minnesotans get through that crisis in as healthy and economically vital way as we possibly can.
Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I want to thank Governor Walz for his message tonight. He delivered a message of hope and resilience that resonates with us as leaders in the legislature and also with Minnesotans across the state during this public health emergency. I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge the many Minnesota families who are feeling anxious about the recent closures, uncertain about the future, and worried about their loved ones. And I would also be remiss if I didn't recognize our incredible first responders who are working around the clock to ensure that we all stay safe, as well as the generous outpouring from Minnesotans of every corner of the state coming together, metaphorically, in a time of need to sew masks and deliver food to those in need of extra support, and so much more. That is what we do as Minnesotans. That is who we are as Minnesotans. We come together across lines of difference to tackle challenges head on because we are stronger together, and that's how we'll get through this. I also want to thank Governor Walz for his strong leadership, especially during this time of so much uncertainty. As members of the legislature, it's imperative that we support that leadership by working in partnership with him and with his cabinet to provide answers, solutions, guidance, and clarity for Minnesotans during this time. Folks in our communities continue reaching out to tell us how they're doing, what they're seeing, what they need, and how we can do better. We've heard from small business owners, part-time workers, full-time workers, teachers, education support professionals, childcare providers, farmers, nurses, doctors, and so many more on the supports that they need from us to continue to protect their families and to continue protecting Minnesota. Although we may not be at the Capitol, Minnesotans can rest assured that we are continuing to work day and night on solutions that will provide relief, such as workers' compensation for first responders, housing assistance, such as cash assistance, loan forgiveness, pausing mortgages, and more for families and vulnerable youth who need our support, emergency assistance for the Minnesota Family Investment Program, and expanding access to small business loans for micro businesses. We are committed to continuing to do the jobs our communities elected us to do. That is to ensure the health, safety, and economic security of every Minnesotan now more than ever. Thank you and be well.
So Ted, in lieu of you being the cruise director, you would want us to just read the questions. We have one from Lou to everyone. Should Governor Walz extend the stay-at-home order? And on that point, we have been deferring all the decisions that we make in the Minnesota House of Representatives to the public health professionals. And I think that we have been well served in the state by the guidance from our health commissioner, Jan Malcolm. And I understand that the governor will make a decision on whether to extend the stay-at-home order when he has a little bit more information of how it's working and what we see coming forward. I think during his briefings last week, he definitely foreshadowed that there's a high likelihood that he would extend that, but I think we'll just have to wait and see until he makes that decision.
So we can see if people raise their hands or if they put a question in chat, either of those.
Yep.
David Montgomery, Senator Gazelka said today, the more jobs that we can allow people to start as soon as they can, the better. Do you agree with this emphasis? I personally think the emphasis has to be on saving lives right now, but we're all very concerned about the economy. I think Minnesotans are concerned about it as well. The problem we have in this country right now is with the lack of testing capacity. It makes it very difficult to do a risk analysis of getting people into the economy in jobs that aren't required at this point in time. So I would say that it's going to be a really tough road ahead. I think that everything we saw in Italy tells us we need to be prepared for an onslaught, and we can take care of the economy when we're through the public health crisis moment. I really believe that Minnesota is going to come back stronger than ever. I think we're going to have a very strong rebound when this is over, but the focus right now is being prepared for the public health emergency and responding to the facts in a way that allows us to save as many lives as we can.
And if I could just chime in, you know, we keep using a metaphor of we need to have a bridge to hold up our families, our Minnesotans, our small businesses in particular, while we get through the public health emergency part of this. And if we build that bridge well, and if we are smart about how we do this, and to the speaker's point about making sure that we have the best possible testing, which gives us the best possible data, so that we can make informed decisions when we can open different things back up, then we will emerge on the other side of that bridge as strong as we possibly can be, healthy and strong, both physically and economically.
All right, from Pugmire, when is the remote voting session planned? We're still waiting to see whether we have an agreement that could be taken up prior to April 14th. As soon as we know that there's an agreement on something we could take up prior to April 14th, we will schedule something prior to April 14th. At this point, the next thing that is planned is reconvening on April 14th.
Items that could be on the agenda over the next period of time, whether it's any time leading up until April 14th, are the unfinished work from our last legislative session. So we left things like workers' compensation, school hourly employees, additional housing assistance, some issues that the courts required us to try to take action on. There are a whole range of things that we could have coming. And then we're also looking to develop another range of items that will help with the economic security and getting through this tough economic time for Minnesotans, as well as making sure that we are providing the governor the resources that he needs. We are already seeing some of the $200 million fund that the administration requested to purchase emergency medical equipment and other items start to flow out through the legislative approval process. So we have unfinished business, but we also have additional items that we need to look at going ahead.
Okay, Tori Van Oot, I have a question. What COVID response measures do you anticipate being ready for a vote next time you convene? Well, that depends on what members get agreement on. Because it takes 90 votes to suspend the rules and to pass something in one day in the Minnesota House, it takes 45 in the Minnesota Senate. In both chambers, we have to have the collaboration of the minority if we expect to pass something rapidly. So that's why we're in this time period from about March 16th until April 14th, where we have agreed that we wouldn't be proceeding on anything without the agreement of all four caucuses, because the anticipation was, given the public health threat to us and to the staff, but most particularly to the staff when we come in and have a session, that we wanted to get in and get out and move things quickly. So what we take up on the 14th that would be ready to pass would be those things where there's agreement. I think it's fair to say that all members of the legislature across the board share a commitment to our first line healthcare workers, our first responders, those who are putting themselves out there. And I think that the highest priority issue we have is resolving the workers' compensation for that group of people.
And Shannon Lerke had a similar question, so I think we've covered that one. Dave Orrick says that Senator Gazelka says a looming budget hole is coming. You agree, I assume. He said belt tightening will be needed. Agree. Question. And I'll just say, you know, this is obviously going to be a complicated financial situation for the state. There's no doubt about it. And we will be getting various types of updated budget numbers or forecast information coming up over the next few months that will help inform those decisions. We also have to figure out how the federal CARES Act is going to factor into this. And we need to be very thoughtful in how we weave together what we can do at the state level using those funds and current general fund dollars to make sure that we are keeping Minnesotans safe and taking care of our economy. But yeah, we're going to be having some serious budget conversations certainly over the next year or so.
I would say I have a little bit of a different perspective than Senator Gazelka and Representative Dowd and Representative Garofalo, who's the finance lead in the House Republican caucus. We are right now in a crisis, and we have to first and foremost respond to the crisis. We have to, in Minnesota, have a balanced budget, but I think it would be a mistake to go through and start cutting expenditures that we're already planning to make and doing things that would increase economic hardship in Minnesota, that would increase unemployment, that would decrease economic activity. We've seen all over the globe in 2008, the last time that we experienced economic devastation worldwide, that the economies that held back and went the austerity route actually made things worse. So yes, we have to be very concerned about the future. We cannot make commitments to do things that we won't have the money for, but we also should not constrain our actions at this point with an overly focused look on what the financial situation will be in the future. The analogy I keep using at the leader level conversation is right now, the enemy is firing at us. This virus is out there and it is hurting people. And we have to start firing back. We can debate how we're gonna pay for the bullets, but we have to be focused on firing back at the enemy right now, which is this virus and the economic devastation. And we have to be addressing those things right now. That means getting housing assistance out to folks. That means making sure that tenants don't fall so far behind that they can't catch up if they've lost their jobs due to COVID. That means landlords not having unpaid bills that they can never collect and property taxes that they can never pay. So I think that we have to have a balanced approach. We absolutely have to look at the economic realities for the state in the future, but that should not hold us back from taking care of Minnesotans right now.
I would also add that we are seeing the benefits of a state that actually invests in things that help preserve people's health. We have a world-class public health department because we've invested in it. We have the University of Minnesota able to do testing and modeling that serves our state well because we have invested in it. We have a school system and we have teachers who are out there taking care of kids' nutritional needs. They are looking after them on their birthdays with teacher parades. They are setting up distance learning, and they're doing distance learning right now. Without a robust system of public schools, we wouldn't be able to support all these kids and families. And we also have a childcare system that's doing its best to get through this. We also, the list is long. We invest in local communities so that they have adequate police and fire protection, and our first responders are well paid and able to respond to these crises. We have a healthcare system that works better in Minnesota than it does a lot of places. It's only because we have felt as a state for a long time that public services matter and they make a difference when you need them, that we are in as good a position as we are in now. And I don't want us to fall into this idea, this trap that somehow that the investment that we've made in state government isn't working. It is working. It's saving lives right now. And the time to retreat from that is not the middle of a crisis. The time to invest and make sure that we're providing the public services we need is now more than ever.
I'm not seeing any new questions. Presumably other people have home improvement projects they're about to start when we're done here. So if there are no other questions that anybody wants to put into the chat, I would just say it's nice to sort of see you all via your names. And I look forward to the time when we can see each other in person, and be well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.